The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, even in 2019, is still relevant, and that's crazy in of itself. So whether it was your cup of tea or not doesn't change the fact that Skyrim was one of the most popular games to ever be released. People still play it now. Heck, even I sometimes go back to it. The game has a massive world to roam through with tons of stuff to do and places to explore. Not to mention the DLC gave the game even more content, and of course, the mods made the game even better. So I found it very interesting and exciting when I came across a news article from gamesradar.com where Todd Howard was interviewed by IGN, and when asked about Elder Scrolls, he said the Elder Scrolls 6 will last at least a decade. For those of you uneducated peasants who don't know, a decade is 10 years. Also, I didn't mean that part about uneducated peasants, please don't write a comment about me. Todd was asked by IGN about the likely decade plus gap between Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls 6. Howard first pointed to Elder Scrolls Online and praised its developers at ZeniMax Online Studios. It's not that we're not feeding high quality Elder Scrolls to people, Howard countered before admitting he knows many people are hungrier than ever for a new trip to Tamriel via the unique sort of open world RPG that Bethesda Game Studios creates. They want a certain type of experience that is very, it's what we've done, said Howard. He goes on to say, the gap in between is obviously going to be long, it already is. On one hand, I think it's good to miss things. I think that makes people come to it with really fresh eyes. And I think when they eventually see the game and what we've had in mind, they'll understand the gap more in terms of technology and what we want to do. Which is actually something Bethesda said a few times, that they need the technology to be advanced enough for them to be able to create the Elder Scrolls game they truly want to make. What that entails, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows apart from Todd Howard. I mean, it could just be words and they're saying it so they can just milk every penny they can from Skyrim and don't want to overshadow Elder Scrolls Online, but everyone knows that Todd Howard and Bethesda realize just how important financially the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be, considering that Skyrim has sold over 30 million copies and that number is from 2016, so with an extra 3 years and the Switch release, it's probably closer to 40 million by now. Anyway, back to the article. Todd carries on to say, the one thing the gap does is people are still playing Skyrim. It's one of the best selling games. I know people joke about it online, but it's one of the best selling games on Switch. Anything we put it on, it becomes a hit game, and they love it. They still play it. It's almost infinitely playable. All of the mods and everything like that, and we're 8 years post Skyrim. It lets us know that going into Elder Scrolls 6, that this is a game we need to design for people to play for a decade at least. At least. So that's the gist of it, and personally I'm super curious to see what exactly they're planning to do to make this game playable for over 10 years, because I don't know about any of you, but there aren't many games I go back to after a certain period of time. Even Red Dead Redemption 2, which is my personal favourite game of all time, I don't plan to play anymore considering I've already put over 100 hours into it. But of course, for an RPG, it's a different circumstance. If I had to guess how they plan to make this game playable for so damn long, I'd say they'd make the world much bigger, maybe even 3 times the size of Skyrim. Something insane like that would make exploration even more fun and grander. Of course, that would also mean they can have more environments, as Skyrims weren't really all that varied. I also think they might add boats and some sort of ship combat so you can explore the seas and sail across to different islands. I think they'll also add building houses and maybe even your own village, because if you remember the Hearthfire DLC, it introduced house building, and personally I loved it, and I know a lot of other people did too. Co-op, I think, is something very important that would definitely please the fans and add a ton of longevity to the game. Tons and tons of side missions, armors, weapons, skills, and other customizations to your character will obviously be something that they will heavily focus on. The side quests in Skyrim, like the Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild, went down phenomenally well, so more of those are a shoo-in. I don't mean to turn this video into a wish list, but this article in general just gets me excited to see what exactly Todd is planning. And even though Fallout 76 was a failure in terms of consumer satisfaction, which also caused a lot of Bethesda's fans to become very critical of the company, I can't help but be excited to see what the Elder Scrolls 6 has in store. One thing I'm sure Bethesda is worried about is how the Elder Scrolls 6 will affect the Elder Scrolls Online player base, as I imagine a massive chunk of players will leave it for the new game, and if it does have some form of multiplayer, it could potentially just downright destroy the Elder Scrolls Online. I also wonder how the game will adapt to how people perceive their RPG games now after The Witcher 3 and possibly even Cyberpunk 2077, as it seems like it will most likely release before the next Elder Scrolls game. Now, even though I know that just because The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk and Skyrim are big RPGs doesn't automatically mean they're competing with one another, as the overall experience each game tries to give you is very different. But I'm sure Todd has seen the great reception that CD Projekt Red got for The Witcher 3 and will take some inspiration from it and apply it to his game. Or maybe not. Maybe Todd knows exactly what he's doing and him and Bethesda have already created a foundation and plan for the game. Either way, I feel very sorry for whatever game decides to release around the same time as the Elder Scrolls 6, as it is sure to stomp all over its competition. Unfortunately, Bethesda will not be showing the Elder Scrolls 6 nor Starfield at this year's E3, so it's going to be a long wait until we see some actual gameplay and a release date. A lot of people are predicting a 2021 release, which seems to make sense, so until then I guess we'll just have to play more Skyrim. Well, hey, so what do you all think about this news? Do you really believe that Elder Scrolls 6 could last over 10 years? Let me know down below, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll keep you in the loop with all the Elder Scrolls and E3 news. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.